Hare Krishna. Welcome to Tax YouTube channel. This is C. Rohanar Pingale, practicing chartered accountant based in Mumbai, also partner in Motilal and Associates LLP, member firm of Marks Network. And welcome to the video series on Income Tax Act 2025. Yes, let's dive into it directly. Let me allow to share my screen. Yes. So, welcome to our Comprehensive Income Tax Act 2025 Masters Series. So, whether you are a CA student, CMA student, CA students, advocate, tax practitioner, chartered accountant in practice, finance professional, or a taxpayer seeking deeper understanding, this series is a designed to take you from the foundational concepts to advanced professional application. So, before we start studying the provisions of the Income Tax Act itself, that is 2025, it is important to understand why income tax exists, how it impacts every citizen and business, right? So, and how the entire tax system functions. So, in this particular episode, that is under session one, we shall build a conceptual foundation that will help us to understand every provision of the Income Tax Act in a logical manner throughout the series. So, under Introduction to Income Tax Law, the taxation is one of the most important instruments available to a government for what financing the public expenditure. So every government requires what financial resources, right? To perform what its constitutional and administrative functions such as national defense, internal security, judicial administration, healthcare, education, infrastructure development, social welfare. So these all resources are primarily generated what through taxation. So income tax is one of the major direct taxes imposed in India. So the Income Tax Act provides the legal framework through which income earned by a person is taxed according to the prescribed provisions. So understanding this framework is essential for every tax professional. So now moving further, we will understand what is tax. So a tax may be defined as a compulsory contribution imposed by the state upon individuals and entities for what purpose? Public purposes. So key characteristics are compulsory levy, compulsory payment, cannot be voluntarily avoided, imposed by authority of law, that is Article 265 of the Constitution of India. No direct benefit. So taxpayer cannot demand a specific service for particular payment of the income tax. Public purpose, right? Used for what? Collective welfare of the nation. So unlike fees, taxes do not require a direct relationship between the payment and the benefit which we receive. Okay, it is a overall for the public collective efforts, collective welfare of the people of the nation. Let's see next, constitutional basis of the taxation. So the Constitution of India forms what? Foundation of all taxation laws that is are placed in the India. So Article 265 states no tax shall be levied or collected. No tax shall be levied or collected except by authority of the law is what Article 265 states. So this means what? Tax cannot be imposed arbitrary on the people or a public at large. Legislative approval is what? Mandatory. Executive orders alone cannot impose the taxes. So income tax is included in the union list, empowering the parliament to enact the laws relating to the taxation of income other than the agriculture income. Moving further, let's understand direct tax versus indirect tax difference. So, taxes are generally classified into the direct tax and indirect tax, right? Direct taxes are a tax burden that is cannot be shifted to anyone. Example, income tax, corporate tax, right? But in case of indirect tax, tax burden can be shifted to further and further. Example, GST, customs duties. So a salaried employee pays income tax directly from income earned by himself or herself. Consumer purchasing goods by GST indirectly through the seller. So this is the example of direct tax and indirect tax. Let's understand position of income tax in India's tax system. So income tax serves what? Multiple objectives. Revenue generation, that is provide substantial resources to the government. Then equity, higher income generally attracts what? Higher tax. Lower income generally attracts low tax or no tax. Redistribution helps what? Reduce the income inequalities, helps in the reducing of income inequalities. Then economic regulation, government may encourage or discourage activities through the tax incentives. So thus taxation serves what? Both fiscal and socio-economic objectives of the nation. Next, objectives of income tax law. So here objectives of income tax law extend what? Beyond its collection of the money. It aims to generate revenue, okay, at the same time ensure fairness, promote investments, encourage savings, support industrial development, and regulate what? Economic behavior. So several deductions and incentives are introduced to achieve what? These objectives. So whatever incentives, deductions introduced in the earlier Income Tax Act 1961, it is the logic or behind that this is what need-based objective to achieve behind that particular deductions and incentives. Moving further, let's see components of income tax framework. So income tax framework can be viewed as a five five pillars, right? Five pillars. That is charge, computation, assessment, collection and recovery, and penalties and prosecution. What are the five pillars? Change, Charge, computation, assessment, collection and recovery, and penalty and prosecution. So every tax law must contain what? These components to function effectively. Next, who pays income tax? So the law taxes different categories of persons. Like these include individual, HUF, that is Hindu Undivided Family, partnership firm, LLP, that is limited liability partnership, company, association of persons, body of individuals, local authority, artificial juridical person. So each category has their separate provisions and tax rates. So let's understand basic income tax cycle. So the life cycle of taxation generally involves what? First, earning income, then computing the taxable income, then determining the tax liability, then comes the payment of taxes, then filing of return, assessment, verification, and appeals wherever necessary. So this is what a cycle of taxation is what. So this framework forms the backbone of the tax administration. Let's see stakeholders in income tax systems. Who are they? The tax ecosystem involves what? Multiple stakeholders. That is, first is of course taxpayer. That is person who liable to pay the tax. Then the professional service providers, consultants. We can say the CAs, CMAs, CAs, advocates, tax consultants. Then the administrative part, income tax department. Then the judiciary comes into the may play the important role, ITAT, High Court, Supreme Court. Then legislature, the parliament, which enacts the tax law. Let's understand sources of income tax law. Okay, so income tax law is not restricted to the act alone. It sources include Constitution, Income Tax Act, income tax rules, notifications, circulars, judicial decisions. So professionals must consider all these sources while advising the clients. So important question comes in the mind, why study the Bare Act? It's why one needs to read or go through the Bare Act. So here is the reason. The Bare Act is the primary source of what? Law. Okay. So it benefits what? Eliminates the dependence on the summaries, improves the interpretation skills of your own. When you read the Bare Act, you interpret it, the law. Not anyone means already interpreted one, you read it, right? So when you read the Bare Act, you interpret, your interpreting skills will improve. So that is most first advantage who are in a litigation practice or in a consulting need to read the source, that is the Bare Act. Then it what strengthens the professional judgment, helps in litigation and advisory practice. When you read, bear it, and interpret, it is the source what you are interpreting. Whatever is your interpretation of of the law. So every tax professional should develop the habit of reading the statutory provisions directly from the source. So let's understand the roadmap of this complete series, which we are going to conduct on this Tax Guru YouTube channel a year ahead. So in this master series, we shall cover basic concepts, residential status, scope of income, five heads of income, then deductions, TDS, TCS, return filing, assessments, appeals, penalties, international taxation, and then the advanced practical issues also. Means we will try to recover every every aspect of the Income Tax Act 2025, and also we will try to go into the depth of it. Okay, so this will provide a complete professional level coverage is what we think. So, key takeaways from today's session one is the most important learning point from today's session. Our taxation is a constitutional regulation. Income tax is what? Direct tax. It serves the revenue and a social objective as a nation whole. Understanding tax law begins with understanding its framework, and very important, Bare Act study is indispensable for the professionals. So, in this episode, we established the conceptual foundation of the income tax law and understood what that why taxation exists, its constitutional basis, and its importance in India's economic framework. So, in the next episode or next session, we will travel through the fascinating history and evolution of direct taxation in India. Means then at least after one session, we will start actual going to the Income Tax Act 2025. So before that, I think it is necessary to understand our history of the income tax law. So means how evolution of direct taxation in India, understanding how our present tax system developed from ancient times to the modern Income Tax Act framework. So thank you so much for patient hearing. Hope you are gaining valuable knowledge from all these video updates, video series, which we are conducting on a Tax Guru YouTube channel. If you have any questions, observations, suggestions, then please do let me know via WhatsApp, email, or you can also comment below the video. So if you are not yet subscribed to Tax YouTube channel, then do subscribe for latest updates and video series like this. So stay tuned to the Tax YouTube channel. Thank you. Thank you so much once again. Bye bye. Take care. See you soon. Hare Krishna.